pieces.
Fired by courage and imagination, bold explorers throughout time set course where none had gone before. Today, that same challenge of discovery has brought us to the dawn of a new age, a revolutionary era unprecedented in magnitude and scope. The guiding force of this revolution, electronics, and at its heart, one single startling development, the miniature miracle, the computer chip. Even in its infancy, the computer revolution touches every aspect of our lives. For artists, the computer is a tool unlike any other. The computer is not only changing the face of the arts, but the way we preserve them for the future. In unexpected places, some scientists are seeking clues to help them build smarter machines, robots that perform more like living creatures. For the ill and the disabled, computers are improving health, extending life, even filling in for nature itself, replacing functions the body is denied. Join us on the threshold of tomorrow as we explore our relationship with the machines our own ingenuity and imagination are making a reality. The first generation to grow up with chip technology, today's children are as comfortable with the machines as with toys and television. Today, many educators recognize the potential of the classroom computer. Children begin young, and they begin with games. Problem solving, here how to match the other half of the butterfly, becomes an adventure. Even before games started appearing in the classroom, video arcades were drawing kids by the thousands. Proponents say the games are valuable if for no other reason than that they make children comfortable with digital technology. They learn the computer is not some exotic tool monopolized by high priests of industry and government. So popular is the new technology among the young, it has spawned a growing enterprise, the Summer Computer Camp, where youngsters eagerly spend 4 hours a day learning computer programming.
What I'd like to do is review some things that you've learned already.
Random function, when it times a decimal, you have some numbers on one side of the decimal and some numbers on the left side of the decimal. It kills everything that's less than a whole number. It just wipes it out. No more.
Programming teaches children to read, follow directions, and analyze problems. Perhaps this is nowhere more significant than for a child who cannot hear. The twin on the right is deaf. He and his brother are programming a graphics design. Children who program understand that regardless of the task, all commands are translated by the computer into a language of numbers, a Morse-like code, not of dots and dashes, but of ones and zeros. For this reason, their original builders thought that numerical computations would be the computer's main function. Almost certainly, the first calculating was done with the fingers, as we developed a need to keep track of possessions and to trade. Later, to handle numbers much greater than 10, beads were strung together, and the abacus was born. It inspired man to try to create mechanical devices for calculating. In the 1830s, the brilliant English mathematician Charles Babbage built a model for a machine that could compute numerical tables. But he died without his boldest design realized, a machine with two key concepts of modern computers, the ability to store information and follow programs. To feed his machine instructions, Babbage intended to borrow a technique from the famous Jacquard loom, punched cards that determined cloth patterns by telling the rods of the loom whether to fall or not. Information either passed or it stopped, and richly complex patterns emerged. Also, the principle of the player piano, this type of yes, no, on, off encoding would become the basic language of all computers. Used to tabulate the 1890 census, punched cards would become the hallmark of a small New York firm, later known as IBM. Vacuum tubes were the first electronic means of applying the on-off principle. By the mid-1940s, the first vacuum tube-based computers began to appear. Though computational marvels, some filled entire rooms, weighed up to 30 tons, and broke down regularly from their own heat. Then the invention of the transistor. John Bardeen, Walter Brattain, and William Shockley would go on to receive the Nobel Prize for what is considered one of the most important inventions of the 20th century. This 1954 film predicted the wonders that lay ahead. Music at the flick of your wrist with a Dick Tracy radio. And video entertainment wherever you cared to go. Though the transistor was fast and powerful, few could predict that the entire world of electronics would be revolutionized by this tiny giant. Then, defying the imagination of futurists and science fiction writers alike, the silicon chip. Seen here magnified some 500 times, a chip contains thousands of transistors and other electronic components etched into a self-contained circuit usually no larger than a quarter-inch square. Switching, storing, and transforming pulses of electricity, the chip can execute millions of operations a second. Generally, the more elements packed on a chip, the greater its computing speed. And the number of elements has been roughly doubling every year. Almost all chips today are made from silicon, an ingredient of common beach sand and the Earth's most abundant element after oxygen. Processing must be done in an environment more sterile than any operating room. Even minute particles of dust can be disastrous. Purified silicon is sliced into wafers, on which hundreds of chips can be made simultaneously. Mass production, lower cost. Lower cost, cheaper computers. One of the most influential inventions in human history, the computer has revolutionized society at all levels. Business, finance, science, education, almost no area of human life is untouched. Once affordable only by government agencies and large institutions, computers were icons of power and prestige. Today, they're becoming as commonplace as television or stereo. Programmed to perform a countless variety of tasks, the computer has become the preeminent tool of the modern age.
$119, $135, $99, $269, $119.
Your charging system is malfunctioning. Prompt service is required.
Computers now guide the 911 emergency system used in many cities. In most instances, the computer can instantly record the location of the caller, then recommend the closest patrol car able to respond. In the medical world, life-saving diagnoses and treatment are made possible with data shared by hospitals thousands of miles apart. Compiling data on more than 200 million people, the U.S. Census Bureau stores 4 billion pieces of information from the 1980 census alone. Robots, run today by computers, were born in the human imagination long before the development of digital technology. The perennial dream to create artificial people can be traced to antiquity. Some scholars suggest it may represent a deep-seated desire to transcend biology and thereby make ourselves immortal. This lifelike Marilyn Monroe is a particular favorite in Japan, even with her beauty unmasked. But machines like these, however captivating, have long distorted our view of what a robot really is. Real robots are not even remotely humanoid. They are usually stumpy pieces of metal with long metallic manipulators. The word robot comes from the Czech rabota, meaning forced labor. Today, often called steel-collar workers, most robots are used in the auto industry for repetitive and hazardous tasks, such as welding and spray painting. Their impact on the world economy awaits the judgment of history. At this time, it can at least be said that they perform tirelessly and they perform well. Far beyond factory walls, robots are coming to the aid of the disabled in a joint project of Stanford University and the Palo Alto Veterans Administration Medical Center. Mechanical engineering professor Larry Leifer is director of the project. K.G. Engelhardt evaluates the interaction of humans and machines.
It's important to point out that the work in this project doesn't say that it's going to advance the fundamental technology of robotics a great deal. That's a secondary objective for us. A primary objective is to create robots that can work with people, interactively, moment to moment, having the robot respond to human needs.
We don't know what a robot can do. Nobody really knows. When we started on this project 3 or 5 years ago, no one had ever worked with an industrial robot to see what it could do to serve human beings. So that we had to start a very different approach with it. We had to start asking very different kinds of questions than what had been traditionally asked. We were dealing with a piece of equipment that is analogous to flying a spaceship. We were dealing with a piece of equipment that was brand new, that no one had ever really worked with. We didn't know who could be trained on it or if people could be trained on it. So it became absolutely imperative from our point of view to start with the user, to go to them and say, what do you want this system to do for you?
Attention. Go to.
For 24-year-old Martin Bishop, the potential uses of a voice-controlled robot seem infinite. In 1982, Martin was struck down in a pedestrian crosswalk, leaving him totally paralyzed from the neck down.
At the first part of my injury, it was like, who am I and what can I do if I can do anything? About that time, I was brought over here to work with the robot, and all of a sudden, being able to assist in developing a device like this, it is fantastic. Hotel.
Hotel.
Foxtrot.
Foxtrot.
Kilo.
Kilo.
Enter.
Enter.
The robotic arm, originally designed for industrial use, can now be commanded to perform such tasks as preparing a meal. Combined in a unique system with a voice recognition unit and a speech synthesizer, the device hints at a future where the computer keyboard is obsolete. In addition to simple words like up, down, and close, code words like kilo and hotel have been programmed to represent an entire series of movements.
Perform.
Perform.
Hotel.
Hotel.
Kilo.
Kilo.
Hotel.
Hotel.
Though this prototype system is not yet available for personal use, its designers are researching a mobile base, vision, and the intelligence necessary to function in an unstructured environment like a real kitchen.
Go to.
Go to.
Charlie.
Charlie.
Enter.
Enter.
Down.
Down.
Close.
Close.
Up.
Up.
Go to.
Go to.
Bravo.
Bravo.
Enter.
Enter.
Perform.
Perform.
Juliet.
Juliet.
Enter.
Enter.
But the robotic arm gives me a unique opportunity to do things that I'm not able to do. And when I go home at night, I guess me volunteering my time to do this is very self-satisfying, because at home I'm able to think of new tasks and new job performance for the robot to do.
For instance, the arm has been programmed to draw and paint. It can also retrieve files from a drawer, turn pages of a book, pick up a telephone receiver, and allow the user to play board games.
Left.
Left.
Stop.
Stop.
Right.
Right.
The robot is going to be in everybody's household soon enough, and it will definitely help you with your independence. A robot if you treat it right, it'll be a friend to you. It'll be a friend, a companion, and a tool. Stop.
Stop.
The persons that we're designing these systems for are the very focus of our research. They drive our research. There's been a lot of talk about human-machine interface, how you successfully interface a person to a machine. We don't really talk about human-machine interface in this lab as much. We talk about human-machine integration. Then you just tell the robot to relax. Some of the most exciting work we've been involved in recently has to do with working with the elderly. That's right.
87-year-old Frances Boswell is volunteering to work with the robot for the first time.
One very, very important issue to us is how easy can we make it for the user to really be able to sit down at a console and be able to start talking to the robot and have it perform.
First, Engelhardt and research scientist Roger Awad Edwards help Mrs. Boswell train the robot to recognize her voice. Until it does, the robot will not always respond to her commands.
Go ahead with left.
Restraint, bye-bye, are you sure?
That's not you. That's not you, Miss Boswell. That's the robot again messing up.
Okay, go ahead.
Right?
About it, what?
Feedback's right.
1
Well,
minute.
are you sure?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? Oh, well, what are you doing up there? Right?
Right.
I've been independent practically all my life. One of the most difficult things I've had to contend with is to ask for help. Look how it would help me at home.
Down,
Down.
down,
Down.
close,
Well, are you sure?
close, yes,
About it,
close,
well, are you
yes.
sure? Yes.
All right.
Very good.
Now you got the cut.
Now.
What?
Forward,
Whatever.
up,
Huh?
open,
Whatever. Too far.
One more time. Try it again. It's not hearing
open.
you.
Come on.
Oh, this is the best one.
I ever had.
Recently, Engelhardt has begun to research other types of robots as potential aids for the elderly. The canister-shaped RB5X is one of several robots already on the market for educational and entertainment use. 90-year-old Sam Leonard is helping to evaluate it.
Let me get you bakery.
We've been evaluating the RB5X system for about 5 or 6 months. It's a robot that was, again, not created to be a health or human service robot. It was created to be an educational tool. We're very interested in it because it's about the right height for wheelchairs. It is mobile already. It is an attractive robot. It looks a little like R2-D2, so it's a friendly robot.
Excuse me.
There's beginning to be an awareness that indeed this is not an incompatible situation using state-of-the-art technology to serve the very real needs of older people.
Here you go. Stop.
At the Little House Recreation Center in Menlo Park, California, senior citizens are embracing state-of-the-art technology shunned by many younger adults. The club was the brainchild of retired Stanford scientist Matt Lehman, who had overcome his own fear of computers and wanted to help others do the same.
We had one lady in the class who was 91. I'm not very young anymore. I'm 75. And I think I've grown younger working with them.
Where's start?
I think the important thing for the people of this age is to continue using their mind and continuing to think. And the computer is a particularly good device for that. It's very much like golf and sports because you have an immediate reward. You can see the benefits of your work, the benefits of your study.
Jackson. Thank you.
It keeps you going because you see, well, yes, I'm accomplishing something.
Hey.
Oklahoma.
No, North Dakota. Oh, but I didn't give him the capital of the other one.
Continued learning is absolutely essential to mental health, and it is the closest thing or the nearest thing we will ever have to the fountain of youth.
The human mind has long been considered the most powerful force on earth. In the revolutionary age in which we live, there are those who think that now the title more rightly belongs to the computer. But not even the most sophisticated computer can match the workings of the human brain. They both take in information and process it. But, as one expert says, a single brain is more like all the computers in the world linked by all the world's telephone systems, 100 billion neurons in intricate networks, each receiving signals from many thousands of others and sending the signals to thousands more. Thanks to technologies like the CAT scan and nuclear magnetic resonance, we have new windows into the brain that few could have dreamed possible. Computers reconstruct millions of calculations to reveal the body slice by slice. It has been likened to exploratory surgery without a scalpel ever touching the patient. But one secret of the body these medical marvels cannot reveal is its biochemistry. Now, positron emission tomography makes that possible too. Colors indicate different levels of activity in the brain. The PET scan may identify Huntington's disease before symptoms appear. Epilepsy, Alzheimer's disease. And the PET scan is beginning to allow us to view how the brain functions as the organ of the mind. The normal brain, while looking at something, listening, thinking, remembering, moving. Developed in the United States, the PET scan is now used in 45 medical centers worldwide.
At a comfortable rate.
In one experiment, a UCLA team is examining how behaviors are learned.
I'm going to start by putting the blindfold on.
A blindfold blocks out extraneous visual information as the subject repeatedly writes her name. Writing one's name is so well learned, we do it almost automatically. Glucose tagged with a radioactive isotope will be consumed in those areas of the brain most active. Relatively harmless, the isotope remains visible for several hours. The experiment will be completed when the subject writes with her left hand, an unlearned task requiring concentration and thought. The resulting PET scans identify the different areas controlling the two behaviors. One day, we may trace what happens in the brain as a new motor activity becomes learned. Computers are also helping scientists unravel the basics of motor activity itself.
Yeah, I guess we're all
At Simon Fraser University in British Columbia, Dr. Thomas Calvert heads a team studying movement, both for its own sake and to find new ways to permanently record dance.
Ready, Diane? Okay, start the music.
Dancer choreographer Diane Thompson wears a device called a goniometer. It measures the angle of each joint as she moves. The information is fed by cable into a computer and stored in its memory. Diane also explores keyboard programming to help her choreograph. She assists Dr. Calvert's research and pursues her own original work. Unlike musical compositions, there is almost no written record of dance, and film cannot capture all its nuances. Computer technology represents a major breakthrough in providing a permanent, detailed library of dance. Near San Francisco, an amazing blend of dance and technology. Self-taught video artist Ed Tannenbaum is working with dancer-choreographer Marcy Javril. They are rehearsing a dance in which a computer will be an essential element of the performance itself. Tannenbaum's system uses a video camera that captures the live image and a computer that allows him to manipulate it in seemingly infinite ways.
All art uses technology. For instance, a painter using paints is using a chemical technology. I'm using computer programming and some of the new technologies in electronics to create my own pigments for creating this sort of art.
I think that with arts and technology, there's no conflict at all. And the technology that Ed has in his hardware system and the way he's created a whole new tool for me to use as a sculptural paintbrush is something that is a dancer's fantasy.
Let's try it again. Many times artists are afraid of technology, and many times scientists are afraid to create art. But if you cross that boundary, then miraculous things can happen.
Enticing an ever-growing number of artists, computer-generated art has been called the most significant advance in the visual arts since the invention of film. It is a magical world, created not with ink, paint, or camera, but with numbers. A concept is initially programmed to appear as a simple black and white wire frame to check for correct motion. Then color is added. Some sophisticated systems offer literally millions of color possibilities. With the addition of shading and highlights, the design is complete. Shape, movement, color, even correct perspective, all made possible from a combination of mathematical formulas and electrical impulses. Whether advertising a commercial product or bringing alive a fantasy toyland just for fun, computer art allows the human imagination to soar in ways never before possible. Beyond the world of the fanciful, computer-generated art is finding exciting practical applications. As a flight simulator twists and tilts, Sophisticated computers generate realistic scenes for the pilot inside. The computer images reflect the performance of the plane, external forces, and every action made by the pilot. Before a plane ever takes to the air, its design has been tested in simulation for hundreds of thousands of hours. The world the computer makes visible seems limitless. Across a distance of several million miles, the space probe Voyager sent us images some consider the greatest finds of planetary exploration. The pictures of the spacecraft itself were generated by a computer, but the photographs from Voyager's cameras are real. One series of more than 4,000 photos revealed the turbulent gases and crystals of ammonia ice in Jupiter's complex atmosphere. Then a startling find, a faint ring undetected from Earth. In a later picture, with backlighting from the sun, the momentous discovery was more vividly revealed. Voyager never entered the ring itself, but its data allowed animators to capture the ring's ethereal beauty. At one of Jupiter's moons called Io, Voyager made its most exciting discovery. It began with a photo that showed what appeared to be a crescent cloud. But computer enhancement revealed the totally unexpected. It was a volcanic plume, the first evidence of active volcanism beyond Earth. Today, the second space age is upon us, taking us beyond exploration to space exploitation. The space shuttle is already ferrying satellites, laboratories, and cameras into space. Soon it could make possible the introduction of industry and manufacturing. Further ahead, human colonies on the moon and beyond. In 1984, dazzling proof of our ability to work in space was witnessed by the world. Astronaut Dale Gardner jetted out from the Space Shuttle Discovery. His mission? To retrieve a disabled satellite, the most difficult operation ever attempted in space.
Okay, back to the flight deck.
Promising unimagined possibilities for future work in space, Discovery and crew had, as one reporter wrote, turned the unprecedented into a job that was all in 8 days' work.
Truly that we've done our part, and he has the satellite now.
Without spacesuit and without risk, we may one day work in space without ever leaving Earth. Robotic systems that mimic human motion with great precision conceivably could be guided from across town or across the solar system. Machines that follow our every movement, piloted by a human brain that no machine today can match. The most useful robots will be those with mobility and versatility. ODEX-1, like other prototypes, proves these goals are feasible. Radio signals to ODEX's self-contained computers allow it to adapt to a variety of environments. It can narrow to maneuver through tight spaces, lower its body to clear the door frame, then raise again to normal height. But scientists generally agree it will be a very long time before robots come close to moving as humans do. Natural walking is an amazing combination of sight, coordination, and balance. At Carnegie Mellon University, Mark Raybert has studied locomotion for 8 years. The work in his laboratory has a dual goal: to understand how living creatures move with grace and dexterity without losing balance, and to lay the foundations for building robots with similar agility and speed.
We decided to begin our studies of balance in walking and running by studying machines that only had one leg. So after all, a one-legged machine must balance in order to walk, especially if it has a small foot, while the problem of coordinating the behavior of a number of legs is completely avoided.
The machine, inspired by the bouncing movement of kangaroos and pogo sticks, is operated by a computer. A joystick specifies direction and speed. Raybert found that a surprisingly simple program can control balance by breaking the problem into three parts: height, speed, and upright posture. Even when pushed, the machine can synchronize the three elements to remain stable and in motion.
Robots provide us with machines that we can do very carefully controlled experiments on. We can manipulate the machines, we can design a machine for a particular experiment. On the other hand, they don't really perform very well compared to the biological systems we're interested in. And biological systems are just the opposite. They perform spectacularly. They do things that we would love to make our machines do, but they're very hard to study.
To advance his research beyond the phase of one-legged machines, Raybert is studying running and jumping in four-legged animals.
2, 3. About 40. To some people, robotics is the business of making factories more productive. To me, robotics could be a new science that has to do with the interaction of perception and motion and control. And it's very exciting that it could be a science that links these things together.
Using a stop-action projector, one of Raybert's graduate students converts the film frame by frame into numbers a computer can understand. For each frame, there are 32 points to be electronically read by the computer.
Is this the last jump, or the height of the last jump?
We'll probably get an estimate of the height difference, or the height of the jump.
But I think it looks great. It's clear that what we need is in there. I think it's the common perception of lay people that robots are much more developed than they really are. Just because people are able to move, walk, and use their hands effortlessly, it's not the case that existing robots are very good at doing these sensing and control operations that people do without much thinking. 3, go.
The early months of work with their newly built four-legged machine was a series of seemingly endless frustrations.
Well, you were right, it didn't work. It's interesting. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Sure is weird. Okay, I fall asleep thinking about what I'm going to do the next day, and I wake up early and I get it in here right away. And I can't wait to fiddle with the machine or get to work in the lab or get the guys going or cooked up or whatever needs to get done. Then there's the other times when I don't have the courage to come in and face the machine because there's been 6 days in a row when we've tried to make it work and it's failed, and today is probably going to be another one. It's very hard to get me to do things around the house, like fix the screens or paint the walls, because I'm faced with a choice. I can do this thing that the guy in the next house is doing and the next guy in the next house is doing, or I can come in here and do something that's never been done before, and that's exciting. It's hard to concentrate on doing the simple things at home when you have an opportunity to do something new, really new. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Finally, progress. A controlled run of 56 steps. Skeptics had said the one-legged hopper would never work. They were wrong. And now, the elegant simplicity of the earlier machine has made this one a working reality. Challenged by his surprising success, Raybert's next goal is to move from trotting to galloping. To improve the dexterity of robotic hands, MIT's Ken Salisbury has studied the basic mechanics of grasping and manipulating for 5 years.
The human hand is really an amazingly complex and amazingly subtle piece of engineering in a sense. If you look at the amount of the human brain that's devoted to processing and controlling motion and information from the human hand, it's really a large proportion of our brain. And so it gives us some sense that to try and duplicate or the capabilities of a human hand is not a simple task. And that's why in working with this hand, we've had to use a fairly large computer with a large amount of memory and a large amount of computational capability. In order to coordinate the fingers, there's a lot of processing necessary to make them move smoothly, make them move with good sensitivity.
Each finger has 3 joints. Steel cables act as tendons. Driven by a series of motors, the entire system is under computer control. Salisbury found that 3 fingers were the minimum necessary to grasp an object, hold it securely, and manipulate it. Robot hands currently used in industry tend to be claw-like grippers that merely open and close in simple repetition. The advantages of Salisbury's hand are that it can be programmed to grasp objects of different sizes and weights, and it can sense and control how much force it exerts. Still in the research stage, the system is not yet widely available for industrial use, but the robot hand's range of motion is already much greater than even the human hands.
I think it's reasonable to assume that a robot hand someday will be much stronger and much faster in certain kinds of tasks than a human hand, in much the same way that jet planes can fly much faster than a bird. They're maybe not as dexterous or not as good at landing in certain ways, but technology in certain areas can really push concepts beyond what nature has done.
The relationship between nature and technology is perhaps felt nowhere more poignantly than when nature fails. 25-year-old Bassam Kawam, called Sam, came to Cleveland from Lebanon to study engineering. Then, a 1982 shooting incident put him in a wheelchair, his spinal cord irreparably damaged. Within months of his injury, Sam became the first subject at the VA Medical Center to be helped by a technique known as functional electrical stimulation.
Okay, Benny.
Electrodes implanted in Sam's legs are connected to a small computer on his belt. Commanded by a hand switch, the computer transmits a sequence of electrical signals which cause the muscles to contract. Director of the project is Dr. E. Byron Marcellet.
The problem that we're dealing with is really the ultimate man-machine interface, because here the machine is really a part of the man. What we're calling the device is an orthosis or a brace, since the patient's normal nervous system is there already. What we are doing is providing an artificial one to take over control of the parts that the person's own nervous system cannot do.
I feel that the machine, it's not like doing the job for me, is helping me in a way by the electrodes making the nerve to work again. I know it's my leg and I know it's my nerve, just the machine making it work again to transmitting the message. And I feel it's like, in a way, part of me.
Satisfied with those flexors?
Yeah, they're okay.
With arduous, fatiguing work totaling more than 2,000 hours, Sam has progressed from a few tentative steps to crossing the lab on a flat surface. And now, the seemingly impossible climbing stairs.
I could take, the other choice and just stay in bed and feeling down about myself, but I felt that there is no reason. There is people out there I have to face, and there is a lot of friends of mine I have to prove to them that I could be doing something like I was doing before.
All of the people that work with us as subjects are making a major sacrifice in order to be able to bring something new and potentially extremely valuable to others. Granted, they too stand to gain from this, but they must be extremely dedicated. They work as hard as any Olympic athlete ever hoped to work. There's just no way this kind of work could be done without people like that.
For now, Sam's walking world extends no farther than the hospital grounds, the device still considered too experimental for unsupervised use. But the promise has been made, a promise Sam's own determination will one day fulfill, not just for victims of spinal cord injury, but potentially for thousands with cerebral palsy, strokes, and multiple sclerosis.
I feel there is hope, and with every day there is something new coming up. There is no reason for me to feel down about myself and about my injury. And I always look forward that there is something that could possibly happen. And this project is one of those things that it's happening. And there is no reason for me to give up on some type of cure that would come through if enough effort is put into it.
Throughout most of history, technology advanced so slowly, it was rare to witness change in one's lifetime. In our modern age, breakthroughs are occurring at an unprecedented pace. More new technology has appeared in the lifetime of any 70-year-old alive today than in all of time before. When the first telephones appeared, President Rutherford B. Hayes pronounced, "That's an amazing invention, but who would ever want to use one?" And so it was in the early days of the computer. Even the best scientific minds predicted that only a handful would be sufficient to handle the needs of the entire country. Today, computers number in the millions, industrial robots in the thousands, with countless more being developed worldwide. Both American and Japanese researchers are racing to build the so-called fifth-generation computers, supercomputers thousands of times faster than any today, computers that may one day learn and reason on their own, even rival the human brain. Today, Silicon Valley and Japan are like Spain in 1492. Launch pads for great expeditions into new worlds. In the words of Alfred Lord Tennyson, I dipped into the future far as human eye could see, saw the vision of the world and all the wonder that would be.